Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Carrie Roldan Show, where we spend 20, 30 minutes or so a week having conversations that matter to the entrepreneur's body, mind, and business. And I'm your host, Carrie Roldan. I'm a wife, a mother, a runner, a best-selling author, a personal growth junkie, and your total business BFF. And I have created something that I'm really excited about, actually, a program just for heart-centered women entrepreneurs like you that helps them get into cellular alignment with their highest calling. It's called the Body Mind Business Reboot, and I'll be launching it again soon. But in the meantime, I have an amazing physical practice for you to help you get into structural alignment so that your body is tuned to receive the inspiration, the guidance, and the wisdom that is coming to you. So if you're interested in receiving that, you can go to carrieroldan.com/alignment. So that's carrieroldan.com/alignment. It's a quick 15-minute physical practice. Feels amazing to do in the middle of the day. Or in the middle of your work day to just get you really structurally aligned, feeling good, and able to receive that guidance that's coming to you. So today on the Carrie Roldan Show, I am so excited to be talking about this topic because dealing with it has really changed my life and business. So the topic for today is your inner good girl sabotaging your profits? I'll just raise my hand that mine was. So our guest today is one of my faves. She's a regular on the show, Cindia Carrere. And I'm going to introduce Cindia and then invite her in. So for those of you who don't know Cindia, her business is called healyourgrid.com. She works with people's energy grids, and she's recently discovered something fairly amazing about our inner good girls and some of the contracts that we have with them. And I'm actually going to invite her on and have her help me explain that to you. But I just want to let you know she is a dear friend. She's a gifted energy healer. She's a wise, amazing woman. And I can't wait to talk to her. So I'm going to invite Cindia in right now. This usually takes just a second. And hopefully I'll see her pop up on the screen really soon. And we'll be talking about, is your inner good girl sabotaging your profits? So I'm going to give Cindy another second to show up before I realize that this isn't working. So what I want to say about your inner good girl and is she sabotaging your profits is just like show of hands. How many people out there, when you hear that term inner good girl, something resonates with you, like something instantly, your hand pops up. Look, there's Cindia with her hand up. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. So Cindy, I was just asking the audience, like how many of you, when you hear that term inner good girl, your hand like, oh, I have one of those. So maybe let's start there. And hello and welcome, by the way.
Hello. And I can't wait to talk about the inner good girl and the inner contracts. But if I may, I want to talk about your body business reboot thing, because I didn't tell you, but I've actually, as I've done the scale, I lost 7 pounds. I've lost 7 pounds and super excited about that. And my husband has lost, I think, almost 13 now. I think 13 or 14. Yeah, it's really good. And I've been sharing your book, Run Yourself Happy, with my clients, and just had a report yesterday, a client in London, she was like, I am loving her book. And I know that I told her that I know you, but she was just like, this book is amazing. And I've had so many breakthroughs, and she's sharing it with her husband and her are running, and she's just like absorbing it. So I just wanted to let you know that it's a tremendous resource, and we have completely changed our eating, completely our lifestyle around this food. And I'm calling it nutritionally based emotional wealth, because the food has such an impact on the emotion and creating that emotional wealth. But we're getting a little more off topic, but I just wanted to share that with you.
Well, thank you. And I'll take the plug anytime. And I'm so grateful, actually, that it's so wonderful when you've written a book, you do it for all kinds of reasons, but you forget that that's something that I experienced the writing of that a while ago. I forget that it's something that is like new and interesting and exciting to every person who picks it up. So it always feels good to hear that. So thank you, and congratulations to you and Dawn. I'm thrilled with your progress and success, and know, your body will continue to shed what it's ready to shed. So let's talk about Inner Good Girls, because this one, I just feel like there are so many heart-centered women entrepreneur that when I say inner good girl, they're like, I am one of the, wait, inner, like I'm a good girl. So let's just talk about what is the inner good girl. And then of course, how is being good possibly sabotaging us?
Okay. Well, just for a quick backstory, I was born the daughter of a minister. And so I was born into the role. So not only was I born to it, but then of course, completely educated, nurtured, everything raised to be a good girl. So not only inner, but outer. And while I appreciate that, and I haven't let go of my beliefs or anything, God also has a sense of humor and provided me with a lot of intuitive abilities from the time I was little. And I know a lot of people, I believe that they can be developed, but I was born with them, like being able to talk about angels, the first words out of my mouth. And my parents didn't quite know what to do with a child that was also very, very intuitive and woo-woo. So I've grown up being a good girl and somewhat, a lot, suppressing the woo-woo tendencies. But as I'm older, and I had to renegotiate that particular contract with my mother because she made me promise when I was a young girl never to use it. And as I'm now older, I had to renegotiate that, and my whole world has opened up to that. So I didn't set out to be, a champion of the inner good girl. And yet I never had the courage to be bad or naughty. And what I finally realized in owning my good girl self is that I was attracting good girls in my clientele, and it was happening over and over and over again. And I would get some information, and that would apply so much to my client. And the more we were working together, all these clients, the more I was discovering and being shown that we have inner contracts. So I am going to turn this over to you for a minute, because I could just blah 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 keep talking about it, but this is a conversation, not a dialogue.
Yes, no, I'm so appreciating it. And it's actually, as always, our conversations. They just sort of go smoothly and beautifully, and one thing leads to the next. So I was going to say, as I introduced you, right, I said your business is healyourgrid.com, but I said you're a gifted energy healer. But as someone who's been your client, right, I remember when you were sort of discovering this, when I would be, working with you and something would come up, some of my inner good girl stuff would come up, and you would say, this is so interesting. This is happening with so many of my clients. And so I know that you did actually create a program around the inner good girl, and I was actually blessed to be in the beta test of that program. It completely, it helped me renegotiate some of my inner good girl contracts. And in doing that, my life shifted, like lots of, I could tell a miracle story. Maybe I'll tell that in a minute, but like in the span of 24 hours, I had like a total turnaround in my business, which was really amazing, around renegotiating one of my contracts. But so let's talk. So who is an inner good girl? Like, and well, maybe I should say this. Cindia has a quiz to find out if you might be one of us, if you might be one of the good girls. You can get that at Carrieroldan.com/good girl. You can take the quiz and then find out how much this conversation actually applies to you. But Cindia, what are some of the common traits of those of us who are good girls and maybe have some contracts we need to renegotiate that might be sabotaging our profits or sabotaging us somewhere else in our businesses?
Well, to answer that, I have to just back up one step. I have to introduce the concept of archetypes, and most of us know what that word is. And it's the easiest way that I can explain it is that people carry very strong, recognizable energy patterns. And so, as a couple of examples, there's the archetype of the mother. And so there's a woman or even a man who may be very, very nurturing, and whether or not they actually have physical children, everywhere they go, they're the ones that are the matriarch or the patriarch of their community or their families, and so people turn to them because they are so nurturing and loving, and they feed and they solve problems, right? And then there can be the archetype of a princess or a queen or a goddess, that people recognize it when they see a person. They're like, wow, she or he really carries that kingly energy. Or and then we all know people who are more like the jester energy or the clown. And so they are universal energies that people run. And now people can have multiple archetypes, or they can have one or two very strong ones. And one of the very, very strong archetype is an inner good girl. And she is the one that follows all the rules. She is the one that really turns her energy and her focus outward, and she makes sure everybody else is taken care of. And she is such an attribute. I mean, people love knowing good girls because they're the ones that will get it done. I mean, we'll suck it up and we'll just take care of stuff, even if it's an inconvenience to us, where maybe, other people that the second it's not convenient for them, they're like, I'm out. So being a good girl isn't about, or renegotiating those contracts, it isn't about breaking the rules and being bad, because making bad decisions doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a person that makes bad decisions. So this is about really breaking the constraints and becoming free. We want to maintain the integrity, the beauty, the kindness of the good girl, but allow her to grow up and integrate with the empowered woman so that she is serving others from her overflow, not an empty cup.
Okay, so that was beautifully stated. And I'm asking for a show of hands again. So how many of us watching, when Cindia started talking about the good girl and how she gives and she serves, and like, how many of you, I just felt in that moment, I felt like my heart totally opened up and literally like there she was pouring out of me. Like, how many of us feel like that's a beautiful thing, that we love, that we want, that we're like, yes, that's me, the heart-centered woman entrepreneur who is good, who's caring, who's giving, who's loving. Yay, right? But also heard the other side of that, right? How many of us are that and are also feeling depleted and overwhelmed and saying yes to so many things because we care enough to say yes? But what you just said, Cindia, at the very end of your little conversation, and then I want to ask about contracts, because I think we might be confusing people using that word and maybe not people understanding, is what I want to say is serving from the overflow. Like, how many of us heart-centered women entrepreneurs are actually doing that? Like, I'll just raise my hand and say that I wasn't, and I'm still working on it. Like that, wow. But what I want to say is what really hit me, and this actually I didn't learn until the beginning of your program, but was that by giving and giving and giving and being loving, that I was actually creating what you called the simmering resentment, right? Like right under the surface, I was secretly freaking pissed all the time. And I felt a little bit trapped by, like, I need to say yes, but I'm pissed about all of this other stuff. And I will actually own up to admitting resenting a lot of my clients who I loved, but they were just like sucking the life force out of me, and my children. I resented them too. So, and I wrote about that in my book, in case anyone wants to read Run Yourself Happy. You can go to Amazon. So can you just take that conversation?
Yeah, I have to take, I was going to say before you introduced it that inner good girls do have a dirty little secret, and they might not even acknowledge it to themselves, much less to other people. So we're opening that conversation. So inner good girls are the ones that smile on the outside, and they'll be so agreeable. And when someone asks them to do something, of course. And underneath, there is that simmering pot of rage, because she doesn't really allow herself to get in touch with her own feelings, because what she's feeling may be considered unacceptable. And so there's resentment, and then there's guilt, And it goes into this really unpleasant cycle, because if you're fed up, if you're going from an empty cup and you don't want to admit that you resent your children because they're just like nothing but little needy things. And I'm not saying yours are, but you know, children can be a lot of mommy, mommy, mommy. And, you know, clients and spouses and friends and everything. If everybody is counting on you, that can be a lot of energy of yours going outward. And so when you want just maybe a little bit of self-care, but you feel guilty, and so you say yes to something, but then you're angry about it, but then that anger makes you feel guilty, so you go back to saying yes, and it's just a switch between how much you're going to feel until you're resentful, and then you go into the resentful until you feel guilty, and it's just this almost endless cycle. And the transformational arc for the inner good girl isn't just being smiling on the outside and crying on the inside and then getting in touch with the rage, because that's just the flip side. That would just be like kind of 180. And so you're happy and now you're grumpy. That's not what it's about. It's about getting past the anger and understanding, oh, that's what it's about. And I can say no, and people will still love me. And if people don't respect you as much for your no's as they do for your yeses, and you're hanging out with the wrong people, because the people who love you simply love you. And it shouldn't be all about them loving you just for what you do or what you provide. And inner good girls have such an issue with believing that taking care of themselves, getting rest, even following their dreams is a very selfish act. And somehow it gets in their head that it's okay for other people to follow their dreams. And in fact, it's okay for inner good girls to help you and support you in your dreams, but it's not okay for us to have any of our own dreams, our own work, our own desires, and our own feelings, and to say no because we're afraid of rejection, afraid of being disconnected from the tribe. There's so much underneath the inner good girl that feels, and I start to call parts of her the inner not good enough girl.
Okay, so again, how many of you are like me, just nodding your head and rolling your eyes and going like, oh my God, this is so me? Here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go to Carrieroldan.com/good girl and take Cindia's quiz. She does some cool stuff where you get to score yourself and find out like just how strong your good girl is, like how much is she actually running your life and business. So you're going to want to do that, because I can feel you all going, oh my God, that's me. Yes, I do that. Oh crap. So let's take them from oh crap to like, now what, right? Because how is she sabotaging my profits? And we've alluded to the fact that there's some sort of contracts that she's got going on that are sabotaging my profits, or anybody's in particular. So how does she do that?
Okay, so to even talk about the good girl, I had to mention archetypes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to put that just like a little pin in it for a minute, and we're going to talk about contracts now. And inner contracts are those subconscious agreements, promises, coercions that we have unconsciously agreed to, or were forced to agree to, for fear of a worse consequence. And they can be around anything. The ones that I am initially talking about in this program are the inner good girl contracts, because when we clear those up, when we identify and renegotiate, we can then profit from those inner contracts. We can have that energy work for us instead of against us. So an inner contract, and I'll just say with mine, I had a contract to be the good girl in my family, and I had to agree to everything in my family. I had to be the yes and never cause any trouble at all. I mean, causing trouble was just not allowed. I mean, there was not even a 1% option for me. So I had to agree to everything, and I had to sublimate my own needs, my own feelings, my own desires. And this isn't all about like just being boo-hoo. I'm just telling this so that other people who relate to that. And so the contracts are those unconscious things that when we can identify them, there is a limitation to them. I put on my, these are not my glasses, they're more like my husband's, but I put them on and I act the role of the spiritual attorney. I have actually been given that blessing to intercede and act as people's spiritual attorney, so that I can look at the contracts and see if they are valid. And there's so many reasons why we can rip them up and renegotiate those agreements. And so they are from your family of origin, they're from society, and women about 40-ish to 65 really, really feel this, because we were born in a time when all this stuff was happening, that women's lib and all these things, that women could have power. We saw breakthrough after breakthrough, women being attorneys and doctors and all this stuff that before was only a man's world. So we saw all these possibilities. And at the same time, we were the ones that were told to sit. I mean, I remember sitting at my desk, folding my hands, and there's probably a picture of me in the classroom with my hands all folded. And the girls were told to be quiet, to stand in line, to toe the line. And it was such a mixed message. So I have talked to enough women that are in this age range that they're like, oh, somebody who gets it. We're for independence and autonomy and being able to forge our own way, and we're supposed to sit quietly behind the scenes and help everything without being seen. And it's very, very confusing, because all those things get inside and mingled up and twisted. So we start to go forward in our business. Of course, I can do this. I can create an online business. I can create a heart-centered business. And we go forward, and there's more, way, way more. But the stuff that's in our DNA, put the brake on, the kibosh on immediately, and says, oh, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that. It can come from our family, our society. It comes from past life stuff. And I'm very, very upfront whether I don't even know if I believe in past lives. It doesn't matter, because energy never dies. It just transmutes, changes form. And so I deal a lot with past life energy. And so a client can believe in it, doesn't have to believe in it. Doesn't matter what I believe. It comes up and I can help heal it. And also those generational wounds that get handed down through the family lineage. I'm shown how to heal that, and to find those contracts that people pass down to their children and to their children's children without even knowing about it. And so I'm going to, again, turn it over to you. So.
Oh, I just love it. I love how we flow, because it just seems like one of us will get on a little rant and then realize, oh, I need to swing this back. No, I think what you talked about contract-wise is perfect. And I just want to share, I promised everybody that I would share me and my contract. And so if you're not getting this idea of contracts right, think of it this way. I like the idea of spiritual contract a lot, because especially the way Cindia described it, when I think of it that way, like, okay, my good girl has made all these agreements in the name of being a good girl. Then when I think of it that way, and then I realize, well, maybe I should take a look back at these agreements. Sorry, we have a puppy and she's barking like crazy right now. So bear with me, guys. She was sleeping when we started this. I should have known better and put her outside. But when I looked at my contracts, I realized, oh my gosh, for instance, I had one that it was a contract that I had made with my dad when I was 3 years old. And it had something to do with keeping me safe, basically, which makes sense. I would make this contract when I was 3 years old, as 3-year-olds start to get, but it was basically like a do what you're told kind of thing. You go do what I do when I tell you to do it, like that will keep you safe. And it makes sense for a 3-year-old. But somehow I had just sort of kept that contract and continued to abide by it without ever looking at it again. And this one, I learned through working in Cindia's Renegotiate Your Inner Good Girl Contracts program, that, wow, this was a complicated contract for me, because it was a contract that I had with my dad. But when I married my husband, I actually just sort of he just kind of I crossed out my dad's name and put my husband's name on it, do exactly what he tells me and that will keep me safe. And wow, that does not actually, isn't really in alignment with what I believe about being a modern woman, I guess, what I tend to know about myself and who I am. I don't think that I am this quiet, just sit in the corner, just only do what my husband says kind of person. And so you can see how that was a conflict. And it was actually a huge conflict inside of my business. And boy, when I discovered that contract and went through Cindia's steps to renegotiate it, some really cool stuff happened really quickly. And anyways, I wanted to share that. I wanted to tell you guys that where I was. So we mentioned the Body Mind Business reboot, and the last time I launched that program, I was just really struggling, and I was in the middle of going through Cindia's program, and I was so busy with the launch, and I just had a lot going on, and I hadn't actually done the part of the program where I needed to sit down and renegotiate my contracts. And one day I had so much to do marketing wise, and nobody had signed up yet. I'd been marketing for like 2 weeks and nobody had signed up. And I had stuff that I needed to do in terms of doing a Facebook Live and getting my marketing stuff out. And something, I swear, you guys, like, put its hands on my shoulders and sat me down and said, no, you finished the contracts today. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I went through that part of Cindia's programs. I finished the contracts. And then I thought, okay, done. Now I'm going to shoot those videos. But I didn't. I wound up choosing self-care instead, which was, by the way, like a new thing for me. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll just, whatever. Like, I didn't get that done. I didn't. But here's where the miraculous thing came in. I renegotiated the contracts. I did some self-care because that is really what I felt guided to do that day. The program was slated to close like within 2 days, or not the program, the enrollment period to join my program was slated to close in like 2 days. So I only had one more day to enroll people, and nobody had signed up. And I felt like someone had put their hands on my shoulders and said, do this inner good girl stuff. So I did it. And within those 24 hours, I went from 0 people signed up to my goal number of registrants. And then the amazing thing happened was there was an accident, right? So someone couldn't get in that first day. So I reopened the cart. And the next day, when I had just reopened it for one person and I had just left it open for the full day, 3 more people snuck in that day, like people who I was like, and one of them was someone who I had been dreaming about, like, if only she would take my program, I would just be like so delighted. So I saw Cindia doing her happy dance, but I just wanted to share that, like, that's the power that can happen when I didn't know I had an energetic contract around that. I didn't see how it was sabotaging my profits, but I did the work because I trust Cindia and because I knew it was important. And lastly, because that particular day I felt really guided to. And the totally miraculous happened within 24 hours. So
I love that story, Carrie. And that, I just love that. And it brings back around to why this sabotages your profits. And the bottom line is, there's many, many reasons, but the bottom line is that good girls are not that good at receiving. They're good at giving, and their identity, there's also a whole martyr aspect to it that good girls are really great at identifying with and giving, but not so good at identifying with and receiving. But I have kind of a little lighthearted approach to this, and I relate giving and receiving to breathing. And so we talk about breathing, and we know what that is. Breathing is when you inhale air into your oxygen into your lungs, and then you exhale. Well, we call it breathing, and pay attention to your breath. Most people, I have never heard anyone, and maybe you have, but I've never heard anyone walk around going, I don't inhale that well, but I am such an excellent exhaler, right? And people don't brag unless they're just having like super huge, like I can't quite take a deep breath, then there's like an issue. But just in everyday conversation, people don't go around identifying whether they're an inhaler or an exhaler. And we're talking about oxygen here, okay? And that's the same thing with giving. Giving and receiving is circulating. And it's more like breathing. It's not divided into one or the other. And it's more like a figure 8. It's just continuous, and it's a cycle. And when people talk about, oh, I can give, but it's almost like there's a little bit of a pride factor, or somehow that they're not good at receiving. Because I've never really, really heard it as in, this is a big, big problem. It's more like, I'm just such a good, giver. And while we all love a giver, there are generous givers and generous receivers. And there are stingy givers and stingy receivers. And if you are a giver, and have you ever tried to give to somebody and they're like, oh, no, I couldn't. No, that's, it's not fun. And so a person who is really understands circulation, and we're talking about love, money, energy, flow, that giving to that person and receiving from that person feels almost identical. You don't even know if you're the one giving or receiving, because their appreciation of it is so, that's so wonderful. Oh, I loved it. How do you know that's exactly what I wanted? Oh, you're, like they're giving back. And then when they give to you, it's just so beautiful. And so good girls tend to be stuck. I don't want to paint, with the broadest brush, but for the most part, they tend to be stuck in the giving part, because there's these contracts that say it's selfish to receive or you can't receive. And so I'm there to help you renegotiate those so that you can step in and have that whole, be a generous giver and a generous receiver, and not have to identify with one or the other, but actually increase your capacity for both.
Cindia, you stated that so beautifully and almost precisely on time, because we are just at 30 minutes now. So I can tell, I know, because I'm doing it. I'm watching all of you out there, like just resonating and nodding your heads and being like, when is this program coming? When can I sign up for it? So it's coming really soon, guys. I think it's coming in January. Is that right, Cindia, in January?
Yeah, early January. And the participants who went through it were saying, when I did the feedback and everything, by the way, had 100% participation, same number before and after. Keep getting emails about how life is after renegotiating. And I mean, people are improving their relationships, renegotiating literally with their boss, or if they have a job. I mean, things keep happening and it's fantastic. And they, in the feedback, I was like, okay, how much should I charge for this? And they said, 1,000, 2,000. I mean, like the value.
At least.
And I was like, well, I appreciate that. So much time and energy went into it. But my desire and intention for creating it is to be a high impact, low cost, because this theme is so universal and I want to get this into the hands of as many women as possible. So I'm enrolling right now because the holidays is pretty soon. It's just going to be the holidays. And I want to get people on board and enrolled so that you can just relax and I can get the material to you, so that you don't even have to suffer through another seasons of giving. And this holiday season right now is a perfect time to understand, like, how much of this is I doing out of obligation and because it's tradition and this is what I'm supposed to do, versus giving from your overflow, taking care of yourself first so that you are in your overflow, and people love that so much better.
So you guys, here's what you need to do. You need to go to carrieroldan.com/good girl. You're going to take Cindia's quiz and realize it'll be clear to you when you take the quiz, like, oh, should I enroll in this program or should I not? You probably should if you're still watching, right? If you were nodding your head this whole time, taking that quiz will just be confirmation for you. And then do it. Enroll right now so that you can sort of go, okay, good. That's my Christmas gift to myself, or that's my New Year's resolution gift to myself. And you have the next several weeks to kind of relax and get ready, like move into it, so that when January comes around, you can dive in. And like Cindia said, everyone who did it, like I was part of the beta group test, we're still like all friends talking about all the miraculous shifts and changes that are happening in our lives and businesses. So it's, you guys know I love Cindia. I love everything she does. I will pitch hard for her because her work has made such a difference in my life and business. But if this is resonating with you, which I think that it is, go to carrieroldan.com/good girl, and that will take you where you need to go. It'll take you on the ride that you need to take. So Cindia, thank you so much for being here. I always love having conversations with you. I feel like we need to do fairly soon, we need to do another regular series.
I totally was thinking that.
Yeah, there's too much good stuff. But for everybody, thanks for hanging around. We're at 34 minutes. So thank you so much for watching. I just can't wait to talk to you again. And have a good day, you guys.